And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined by my dude Shub. Like this guy, look, the beginning of our working relationship was actually back when I was at Silver Screen and Roll, and we would do spaces, and there was always this dude who came up, was eloquent, knew exactly which points he wanted to make, knew how to make them, made my job so much easier. I was always very nervous to throw to guests on those shows because sometimes you get the person who freezes. Shub never did. And all he's done since then is create probably the most popular post-game spaces show on Twitter. That's the Coach's Den. He and I do the All Access Lakers show together, also super popular. Had a blast tonight talking about dogs and the tiers of dogs in the NBA. Shub, thank you very much for joining me. Welcome to the Lakers Lounge. How you doing? How you holding up?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the kind words. It was a lot, and I really appreciate all that. What I can remember about those Spaces days, Spaces were new back then. I was just trying to get my name out there as some super fan, and you were gracious enough to let me up every Wednesday morning when I was quote unquote on my lunch, and then I would get a Slack message like, "Hey, buddy, you back on the clock yet?" I'm like, "Wait, I'm wrapping up this take about Russell Westbrook." So I just want to thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you
really
for the
came up
time.
through the fire too, because those spaces
Yeah,
got heated.
yeah.
Lakers fans were
It was
not
fun.
happy back then, and you came up and again, and look, I'm biased because I didn't have the highest opinion on the Russell Westbrook experience. So having somebody else hop up there and make good points and make logical points and not sit there and scream at other people, I appreciated that. So
Yeah,
it was fun, and what you've built since then has been really cool, and I'm stoked to have you here.
I appreciate it.
Today on the show, we are going to be talking about the Lakers beating the Blazers, beating the brakes off the Blazers. Wasn't necessarily like it was. They were certainly in control all game. There was never in doubt. The Lakers wound up winning. The final here is 134 to 110. So you got a nice, 24-point win. And it was a steady, it was a good, it was a good feel good win there. There were some runs that went back and forth, and I think that kind of speaks to the inconsistency that we just know was a part of the Lakers experience. I have some lineup and rotation questions here that we'll ask about this stuff moving forward. I do want to start because I know a lot of people are probably kind of curious about what went on. I reported earlier today that the starting lineup was going to be D'Lo, Austin, Vando, LeBron, and AD. I got that off of good sourcing. It was people that I trust, multiple people that I trust, all felt that that was going to be the case. I probably could have waited a little bit longer to get it 100% down. But the issue is, and this is the situation as I know it, and I know that those of you who are tuning in are going to think that I'm making excuses, but I put in that tweet, just a heads up, this guy changes his mind. This is what people who work with him say about him. That isn't
At
my
the start of the
opinion.
tweet. At the start of the
Yeah.
tweet, but you like, yeah.
Yeah, I said like and I told the story. I've told the story on All Access Lakers. I have told the story on your show on Coach's Den. I'll tell it again. The first story I broke when people started taking me seriously as an insider had to do with the lineups, right? And when I reported that, I had that lineup, that all wing weird lineup that they had. I had that 36 hours before anybody. And it was like the Lakers themselves have wondered, wait, how the hell did he get that? And I reported that, and I had somebody reach out to me. He's like, hey, just a heads up, you are correct right now. You have this correct. Issue is this guy changes his mind. So you're gonna have to sweat for the next 36 hours. And I did. That sucked. My Harrison was out there telling everybody that my legacy was on the line and all those things. And I would like to think that I've earned some goodwill by reporting a whole bunch of stuff that got confirmed ever since then. And I would hope that people still rock with me. And I do apologize because I probably could have waited, and I probably could have gotten it 100%. But even there, I don't know. I don't know how down pat I could have gotten it given the way that Darvin kind of operates. But look, at the end of the day, I reported one group of starters, a different set of starters obviously started, and I have to take that L. But I'm curious, Shub, what you saw from those starters. What did you think of Rui starting? What did you think? Like how did you feel like it all looked again against? It's hard to take anything all that seriously. Portland is pretty depressing right now, but like how did you take it all watching that group play together?
Yeah, I mean, you could go to a lot of different directions with it. Didn't necessarily have a problem with it, knowing the opponent we were going up against. I felt like Darvin was kind of sitting on a cushion, knowing our two stars and how we came off last game. There was a lot to lose, but these guys weren't going to lose it. So,
Yeah,
the way I looked at it and kind of justified it, it was okay. Rui's coming back a little bit off the minutes restriction, whatever, if that still is the case. Why don't
who
we get
knows?
him why don't we get him going in some context against an inferior team to see if we can get his role kind of implemented here offensively, because we're going to need him now that he's fully back. And so the coaching staff can kind of get an iteration of, okay, Rui's back to like 15 scoring 15, 16, 17 points next to LeBron, while he used to be the substitute for LeBron. Let's see how we can like further his role, now that he's back. So I felt like the starting
Yeah.
lineup was sort of, again, a mini audition from a very micro perspective, because he's coming back from that long delay. So I didn't have a problem with it, again, knowing the opponent that we were onto. But I can understand fans that, again, with the continuity point, wanting Vando to start again and wanting to see some resemblance of last year's lineup, even though we did have 5 players today that did play last year as well. So in terms of frustration with Rui starting, I was at a definite 3 or a 4 going into this game.
Yeah, I think essentially I think the thinking here, and I'll try to try to hammer this down as well, but I think the thinking is that they kind of feel like they know what they have with that lineup. And we saw Vando get played off of the court over the course of playoff series last year. And they they saw D'Lo get played off of the court last year too. And that's a factor here as well. Part of the reason why they're trying so hard to move him. But I think what they are trying to do is like elevate their ceiling. And I think they have a higher ceiling collectively when you have more space around Davis and LeBron, and you can make life easier on them that way. Hence, Torian starting all season and playing 30 minutes a night. And I think tonight, again, this is me analyzing, not reporting, but I think tonight Rui starting was a hope to like, all right, this is the most, I think, NBA talent that we can put on the floor at the same time.
Absolutely agree.
And I think they wanted to see how that all fit together to see if like, okay, let's see what it looks like when we put this group out there and see if it's worth like sticking with here moving forward. The only thing that makes me a little nervous is that like you went with it. I thought they looked fine. I thought they looked good. Again, it's like the Portland's terrible, so I don't
Right.
it's hard to really gauge actually. But I thought they looked fine, but then you played 9 guys in the first quarter. And, obviously LeBron always subs out early, but Rui subbed out early. He subbed out with like 5 minutes to go in the quarter, and we didn't see him again until there was 6 minutes left in the second. Cam, like, while the game was still like while the two teams were actually playing to win the thing, Cam outpaced, I think, Rui in terms of minutes. Eventually, I think Rui got a couple more there at the very end.
Yep.
It makes me a little nervous about what the rotation is going to look like, because even there, like in the first period, we got run without LeBron and AD in order to get Wood some minutes and get Cam some minutes and get Max some minutes and all this stuff. Like, I'm nervous that with Cam now back, like I thought the rotation made a lot of sense without him, and I think I'm nervous they're going to try to force Cam back into it at the detriment of other guys who should be getting longer run.
I couldn't agree more. And I was telling you guys on the stream when you were watching these games before tonight, for some weird iteration, and I'm gonna try to hammer this home on Twitter too. I truly believe like when we are winning games or have wins, the rotation in the lineups throughout the duration of the game makes so much more sense and crystal clear when we're watching it in live action. And when we're losing games, the lineups just go awire. They're so night and day. We have there's literally games we end up losing that we have questions with the first sub at the 5-minute mark of the first quarter. And although it was Portland tonight, we had that same question right now because you pointed it out. We brought in 9 players in the first quarter. 9 players played in the first quarter. And that was the only difference that people can analyze and kind of pinpoint to that is Cam came in, Torian came out. You have a new starter in. So to your point and about being nervous and kind of worried, that's not something you should absolutely ignore. You had one sort of adjustment which you were just able to fill in Rui for Torian and should have just left it at that because you have a simple 9-man rotation. That doesn't mean you play all 9 in the first quarter. AD came out with 2 minutes left in the first quarter for no reason, left you without a center. We were talking about early second, no LeBron, no AD to hold that lineup at all. And it was just like, you're just complete. A theme of this season is going away what's been making you successful. And we've had a couple good wins before the Brooklyn game where things looked well paced. These are our 9 players playing. Whoever's injured is out. But these are our 9 guys we're going into it. And there was some level of mini consistency in a 3-game sample size. We're like, okay, everything makes sense here. And an inkling like tonight where someone comes back into the lineup, that's usually a good thing for a team. But for us, it just causes this catastrophe, like major confusion where it leaves Laker fans to question, that's not really something that should be a major adjustment for a coaching staff.
Yeah, I for a while and basically all season, the LeBron Wood minutes have been good. Yeah. Like they've been really good this year. They play well off of each other. Wood provides some spacing there. He provides some rim protection as well. LeBron Wood with a couple of wings, right? Like the LeBron Wood max minutes, I think. If you look at those small data, data sample, but it's like those. I think those numbers are very good this season. And because there was so much kind of jumbling there in that first quarter, and I do think, like you make the point, I think it's a great one. I think Ham, when it's close, like he feels the need to inject himself into the game and inject his ideologies and force his ideologies onto a game where, like, I think this roster is talented enough to just like let them just keep it simple, initiate and implement some generic principles, and know that, like, all right, even if we aren't running a set, we want to get LeBron involved in every play. We want to get AD involved in every play. We want to get some D'Lo stuff. But like, I find myself like watching this and through that first quarter, because it was kind of, let me look at the finals from that. The final, yeah, it was all right. So the Lakers outscored Portland only 36-31 there. And it was kind of back and forth. It was kind of ugly. It wasn't like, it wasn't overwhelming. Yeah. And I do kind of think that like Ham kind of outcoached himself there, saying like, we cannot lose this game. And I thought that like by kind of micromanaging that rotation, he actually made it kind of tougher on the guys that were out there, because if you play 9 guys in a first quarter, you have a lot of like 5-minute stints. Or even worse, like in I think like Max's case, he played like a 4-minute stint in that first quarter and then got yanked. And it's just and then on top of that, and the thing that I was kind of nervous about by starting Rui here, and I think if you start Rui and Torian is available, it makes more sense. But by starting Rui, that forces you to have to play lineups with both Cam and Vando. And those lineups have really struggled this year. And lo and behold, they came out there in that first quarter and they didn't look all that great. I think the Lakers still scored okay because, again, Portland's a mess. But I thought that I understand what they were thinking by starting Rui, but I thought it kind of put them into some awkward situations that Ham only made the more difficult by playing so many guys in that first quarter. I do think we got to sing some praises here. And I know that like it's a running joke on All Access Lakers. D'Lo with a double-digit lead is the best player in the NBA. He finishes tonight 34 points in 34 minutes, 14 of 21 from the field, 6 of 11 from 3-point range. He dished out 8 assists, had 2 blocks, which is always funny to me. No turnovers, which is kind of, really impressive given how ragged the game was and how disorganized the game was. Um, I do think it's worth continuing to note that if and or when the Lakers trade D'Lo, and I think they're aware of this. Like if you look at the names that they've checked in on, right? I've reported they have called the Hornets, for example, about Terry Rozier. We already know about all the DeJounte Murray rumors. And I also know that they have called about Malcolm Brogdon as well. It's like they know that like they have to bring somebody in to play kind of the role that D'Lo is playing. But I think a game like this really highlights because Austin was fine, like 15 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 3 or 4 from 3-point range. It really highlights how vital a player with that point guard skill set, point guard mentality, uh, when D'Lo has his head on straight, like he plays like this, and the Lakers look unbeatable. They need to replace that. What do you think about like the way that D'Lo has played while all these rumors have kind of swirled around him?
Listen, a very minute kind of people were stuck in the past group of Laker fans last year after the trade deadline during some lapse periods were saying, listen, man, this is why we needed to keep Russell Westbrook for his playmaking purposes. Flip that over to this trade deadline now. There's a bigger sentiment of like we need to understand what we're losing here, right? And D'Lo's value to the team. We say it all the time that D'Lo, when he's on, he takes our ceiling to a whole nother level. We were saying this in July, August, when the contract was signed to a team-friendly deal. When we initially, obviously, we knew that was a team-friendly deal in terms of this kind of season, trade deadline season. But we were coming in saying we're like, okay, at least at that moment in time, we were committing to D'Angelo Russell as our point guard for the minute future. And when the reason we did that is because when he is playing on top of his game, it takes LeBron, AD to a whole new level because opposition's already stuck with LeBron and AD and their production and scouting report, what to do there. If you're having D'Angelo Russell in transition threes, running pick and rolls with everybody, getting other people involved, getting the role players involved, getting non-scorers involved in semi-transition, like the Lakers are just borderline unbeatable at that point when you allow D'Angelo Russell to play his game like this and he's on fire like he was tonight. 34 points, 8 assists, 14 to 21 shooting, 6 threes on the night as well. It's just everyone knows, and I think a lot of fan bases who low-key warned us about this, and we're seeing it now as Laker fans on the second round, is the inconsistency is just too much to deal with for an 82-game stretch and beyond that. So that's why we're at this juncture right
Really
now.
importantly on the in the 16 win stretch. Like
In a
that's where you
16
really
stretch,
get nervous about it.
absolutely, in April, May, and June. And so, I mean, I think the fan base kind of made that decision based on November, December. Again, is it all D'Angelo Russell's fault? Absolutely not. With what you led, the show off with, right? But circumstance, our rush timeline, it like you're reporting and saying, it looks like he's almost out of the door. But I mean, I tweeted it last weekend too. Laker fans who are kind of getting emotionally pulled by this sort of great run D'Angelo Russell's on, which is helping us win ball games, which is first and foremost. The concept of selling high when it comes to your assets in negotiations in any sort of business is an extremely important concept that I feel like fans are somewhat missing. So I think that's where we're headed down this road for.
Yeah, I think it's tough with D'Lo because obviously the Lakers drafted him, and when they drafted him, like that first run even that he had in Vegas, like that summer league that he had right after they drafted him, was
Electrifying.
so much fun. And he is this like fun, kind of happy go lucky, like live with his heart on his sleeve type of player out there on the court. When the vibes are great, he very much like, you know, is a multiplier of those vibes, out there
So
on the
fun to root
court.
for when he's on. So fun to root for when he's
Yeah.
on.
And like the way that he plays too, because like, I think fans always kind of or players, these kinds of players really resonate with fans in that like he's not an overwhelming athlete. He's a big dude. He's big for his position, but like he's not dunking on people. He's not crazy fast. He doesn't even shoot a jumper, right? He shoots a set shot. And I think those kinds of players really kind of resonate with fans. Is like I could see myself as that guy, even though I'm
Right.
not 6'5" and crazy coordinated. Like I think there's a lot to like about him, and I think there are a lot of people, whether in the fan base or even in the organization, who have been pulling for this guy.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like, look, the Lakers signed him to that deal, and part of the negotiation back then, the reporting on this is a little fuzzy, and the people that I've heard contradictory things on this, as far as like, was waiving the no trade clause back then part of the negotiation? Was that something that they asked him to do back then? But the fact that he did it, that just highlights and really kind of speaks to the situation that both player and team understand that they are both in. And also, like, I don't think anybody watching or listening right now thinks that the Lakers are a championship team. They might be a championship contender, but they are like, they would have to get some breaks, I think, to win a championship with this current group of players. And unfortunately, the Lakers just don't have very many contracts to move that can bring you back those kinds of game changers that lift you from contender to championship team, or even like they're 500 right now, you know? Like they aren't overwhelming, and anybody who's like who would look at a 500 team right now that we just saw lose to the Brooklyn Nets the other night, like, they clearly need a shot in the arm. And unfortunately, there are very few other avenues that you can take to improve this roster, like beyond D'Lo. Like, they aren't there. I've heard it, from multiple people, that the only circumstance that they're willing to move Austin Reeves is for a superstar. DeJounte Murray is a good player. He's not a superstar. And if that's how you feel about Austin Reeves, then the only other contract that you have that can go out and get you a $20-ish million player, the kind that you need to improve the team, is D'Lo. And that's just kind of the situation that everybody kind of finds themselves in. And we'll see what that eventually looks like. They have 2 weeks, 2 weeks and some change to basically figure that out. I want to talk about the vibes in this one, though, because they really stuck out to me in that, look, you had some highlight moments. You had D'Lo throwing the alley oop to LeBron that got everybody up out of their seats. You had some crazy shots and great offense. The Lakers scored 134 points tonight. So there's plenty of offensive fireworks to get like everybody feeling pretty good about themselves. But it really stuck out to me going to halftime. You're up 13, and everybody is just kind of like, all right, guess we have to listen to this guy talk again, and I don't know. Did you pick up on that too? Like, I noticed it. I made note of it on All Access Lakers. Have you picked up on that? Like, not just this one, but lately, even when things look quote unquote good, you would think that there would be a more positive reaction to those moments.
Yeah. And I saw you caught that as well, and I completely agreed as well. I think late in this one or the previous game, to avoid the shot clock violation or to get the starters out, LeBron signaled to the ref a timeout, and Darvin was off doing something else. It was in this one, actually.
He was standing right next to him.
Right next to him, and Darvin was busy doing something. And at this point in the season, I've never, seen a player take this action, whether it's a timeout or challenging a call from a player in all my years being a Laker fan versus a coach. But I have noticed it. I have noticed it as a fan. There is like you brought up as well, the quotes from Rui early on about role differential, from D'Angelo Russell praising Jock Vaughn after our terrible loss last game. LeBron on several occasions disagreeing with Darvin Ham and the players as well. Austin Reeves trying to make no excuses for it when Darvin did make the excuses of having injuries as well. It's just a lot of not a lot of cohesion. Not a lot of cohesion you would see from a team that, forget the record aside, just knows what they're doing, knows where they're going, and has a plan moving forward what they're doing. Listen, like LeBron is free to do what he wants. He's delivered so much to this team and continues to be one of our great leaders. But even in the post game, to like not speak on your team when you're the captain of the team and just be like, I don't know, like I just come into work, lead by example, and then, just come back and hope we can have the best results. That's not, to your point, a team that knows what they're doing and is on a championship trajectory. right?
Yeah.
And that is all stemming from the common denominator that we're seeing up top. But like we've been saying, the common denominator has been solidified by ownership and the front office. So I just don't know. To your point, being a championship contender, all the championship contenders are on the same page. Every single one of them. Everyone knows where
Yeah.
they're headed. Everyone has an on switch. Everyone knows what they're doing or where they're headed towards. Looking at the schedule, what they need to prepare for. To the Lakers, it just looks like a game-to-game situation and adjust on the fly to these guys. And they ask themselves at halftime or midway through the third quarter, do we want this one? And then you'll figure out if they want this one, which is very, very, not reassuring to fans at all.
Yeah, it almost, like, another way to put it basically is that it feels like the Lakers players hold themselves to a higher standard than the head coach. And usually you need that to be reversed. You need the head coach to keep on kicking the team in the ass um, through more productive means to get them back on track. But like, you have the head coach making excuses that the players just aren't there for, don't have time for. You have, and I think also, and this is something that I've been reporting all year, is they're all kind of sick of the same conversation, the same talking points, no matter the situation. It's always run faster, get to your spots quicker, be more physical, uh, be more disciplined. Whatever might make your decisions more confidently. Like it's all you. Like, you guys need to do this, you guys need to do that. And D'Lo had a quote I think it was today, I think it was this morning after shoot around, that really stuck out to me, where it was like, somebody asked about the vibes around the team. He was like, and like whether everybody is rowing in the same direction. And he was like, I think we all like each other. And like, what? And I took that there. I think there are multiple ways to take that, obviously. One is just to laugh at it, which is what I initially did. But I think also the we is important here, because I think the players are looking at the we as them, and the coach as part of a different group over there, and I don't think that the players feel properly heard and represented with the coaching staff and the decisions that the coaches make. And Ham, and look, he's right. Like, at the end of the day, you got to please your bosses. I think Ham, because of the amount of confidence he has that Rob and Jeannie have his back, like, that's his focus. That's all that really matters to him. And I think there hasn't been enough done to get the players on the same page, because when D'Lo says I think, means he doesn't know. And when he says we, I don't know if he is including Ham in that, or the coaching staff in that. And again, like, you beat the Blazers, it's good, all that stuff. But like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they turn around and lost another dumb game here, this week, because you can't be very consistent when there just isn't very much belief in the head coach. And I think that's where we keep on finding ourselves here. It's like, yeah, they're going to look good occasionally. And the Blazers are such a mess. Like, man, if I was covering the Blazers, you guys think I'm hard on the Lakers. The Blazers so depressing. But like, the Lakers here, they pick up this win, and I'm really curious what the quotes are going to be like here, because I've even heard a player call a stretch of a couple wins here and there fool's gold, which, again, like, if that's how you're defining your success, if that's how you feel about your success, I just don't think there's very much confidence in, from players in the direction their leadership has taken them this season.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. And one thing I do want to highlight now that we're talking about it, the difference in last year and this year is what I'm noticing is last year, Darvin Ham, a lot of post game quotes, he would exude confidence and just like shell praise out to LeBron and
Yeah,
AD
like,
for the
stand for
guidance.
players.
Yeah, especially LeBron and AD for their leadership. And what that told me last year is it's a very collaborative process, him being a rookie head coach last year. And he said, man, LeBron is such a great leader. AD, he's just, always going to be there for the guys to uplift. And he really highlighted the captains last year in that collaborative process that led to, a surprising season all the way to the Western Conference Finals. This year, like you're talking about, being 500 with the inconsistencies, with the articles that are coming for his head, You're not seeing a lot of that, and a lot of what you're describing, Anthony, with a lot of, uh, pushback or, very qualitative analysis to the fans being like, we got to push harder, we got to be more disciplined, things of that nature, where it's very more instructive rather than, the team and I, we're going to like kind of work on some things. And it kind of speaks to what you're saying is like a very close to a very coaches versus players united front when we saw last year, especially beginning of the playoff run, before the playoff run, I would hear new things about Anthony Davis's leadership I hadn't heard during his entire tenure here, and new things from LeBron James by our new head coach that I haven't heard, in his tenure here. So that's the biggest standout to me. Now that I'm going back and hearing, what I thought of Darvin Ham's discourse last year when we were slightly more successful to this year, where it's like, okay, yeah, like we kind of know each other now, but now I've kind of had a year under my belt. I know what needs to be done. So let me go ahead and handle this, and you guys just execute what we're working on here to the fullest potential. And you can see this sort of the disconnect overall. And I feel like the players' will is at the point of a lot of these wins, more so than what's being drawn up in the locker room.
Yeah, and after the game, like right now, as you and I are talking, you'll have all the videos that are coming out, and it's something that I'll watch and I'll keep an eye out for it. But like, Odell, Can't Beat Odell on Twitter tweeted, quote, watching LeBron's post-game interview, he's practically whispering, and the locker room is so quiet. Never seen or heard a Laker locker room that quiet after a win. Wild, something is up, ... And so like, yeah, it's just it's tough to like, it's tough to even enjoy the moments that are fun, right? D'Lo dropping that bounce pass alley-oop to LeBron is fun, and beating look, the Portland Trailblazers have picked up a ton of like annoying wins over the Lakers over the course of my lifetime. They are like one of those teams I just like don't like because for whatever reason, like Damon Stoudemire would like torture the Lakers and just run circles around anybody trying to guard him. So like beating the Blazers in and of itself is always fun. But like it's just this constant like blanket that is just kind of hanging over even the excitement. And I don't know if it's because everybody is waiting to see what the team looks like after the deadline. I think these guys can basically pick up on the fact that the team is going to look different, and it's hard to really like buy into the team concept when at least a couple of these guys probably aren't going to be around. And I know that's a part of NBA life and all of that, but I don't think like going into this trade deadline, the Denver Nuggets don't think that a starter is about to get traded. Going into this deadline, the Boston Celtics don't know that a starter is going to get traded in the way that the Lakers probably know that D'Lo is going to get traded. And I think like that kind of vibe, that tension is, and you add it to, I think, some of the questioning of the leadership and the coaching leadership. And I just think like the team is in a weird spot right now. And I don't know what it's going to take to break them out of it. I don't know if it's going to be that whatever trade finally and eventually happens. I don't know if it's like, I was hoping that like, with all of the reporting, Ham would kind of have his come to Jesus moment. And apparently he did open up communication between him and the team, but we didn't see any change in behavior, which, isn't great. It's like he heard what they had to say and moved on. And I think like that's almost worse than not communicating, because it means that you're like, oh, you heard me, and I just don't matter. Like I have my notes here on how this is going, and it just doesn't matter. And, when I reported today that the Lakers starters were going to be last year's starters, there was like palpable excitement from the people that I was talking to. They're like, finally, not fans, not the people that like responded to the tweet that I sent. I mean, like people in the organization were like, all right, finally, let's go. And they were like, obviously they always are rooting for success from the Lakers perspective. But I think there was a sentiment of like, all right, this has to work to prove to this guy that they can go back to this and really start building on last year. And then when all of a sudden, and again, it's not nothing against Rui, and he is fortunately one of those like 6 that came back from last year. And I do think that there are some like legitimate like explanations why they would start him in this spot.
Yeah.
But I do like, I do think that there was that, palpable kind of disappointment when they didn't start those 6 or those 5 guys that started en route to a Western Conference Finals berth that came out of nowhere. And again, like I they have been waiting to build on that all year. They were sold on sustaining success and building on success from last year, and it just hasn't happened. And then to like go away from it again today, I think there were some people in that organization who were kind of bummed by how it played out. And we'll see. Like, we don't know how long Torian Prince is going to be out. We don't know how long that like what the minutes are going to look like with Cam now back. He didn't look good. Let's see. Cam he's a +10 in a game that the Lakers won by 24. He went 5 of 8 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3-point range. So like he looked fine, I guess, but it feels like it comes at the detriment of other things around him. And yeah, I'm really curious where things play out from here. Let's look really quickly at the week ahead and get everybody out of here with that. The Lakers' next game is on Tuesday against the Clippers. The Clippers sitting currently at 27-14, the Lakers at 22-22. One of the games that we thought was really going to turn things around was the fact that they beat the Clippers. I think they're probably going to get the absolute best from them this time around on the Clippers home court. And then from there, the Lakers schedule gets a little bit tougher. This was the kind of run that you were hoping that they would really kind of stack some wins on. How confident are you going into that Clippers game?
The Clipper game, I'm not sure. The games after that, very much more confident. The Clippers game, I feel like we're going to get their best shot. I would not be surprised to see that gas kind of run out midway through third. That's kind of my inkling. But again, we play up and play down to anybody. So I would not be surprised Lakers, stuck it out till the end in a sense. And just to real quick, go back to your last point, the D'Angelo Russell quotes are coming out. D'Angelo Russell in his last 5 is averaging 27 points a game. If you had the player's name, you would have thought that's a superstar. 27 points in the last 5 games. And I thought he had a great quote right now. D'Angelo Russell explains that part of his recent uptick in play, averaging 27 last 5, came from the recognition that the best way to complement AD and LeBron is to be aggressive rather than to defer. So I thought that was really interesting. Maybe a couple minutes too late. And there is a viral video going around. D'Lo was sitting on the bench before they went to the locker room, and he's just chilling with Austin. And he's just kind of, people are claiming he's like emotional and stuff like that. He's just looking off after we won the game, looking off in the court. And there's some very vulnerable kind of moments looking at that. I quoted it myself and saying, he's literally been through hell and fans are just, knowing what's coming and stuff. So, and combine that with your quote about the locker room being quiet. I don't know what's brewing. Obviously, if there was something in the works, I don't think he would be in the game. But maybe he knows something we don't, but there is something going on, even in a meaningless win against the Blazers. I just wanted to add that.
This is a video that this is a screen grab from a video that the Lakers sent out after the game. This is Rui walking off of the court. This is what he looked like in the tunnel. That guy looks happy to you, Shub?
Yes.
They just won by 24. That guy look happy?
Man, oh man. It's not
look at him.
Yeah, dude. It looks like a It looks like AI. It doesn't look like Rui. That doesn't look like normal Rui. I've never seen Rui not smile on the court.
Right. Like normally when he throws up the LA, he like his eyes are on fire. He's like
I can't recognize
to
Rui
be in LA.
Like a deep fake or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to pull this and I'm gonna try to filibuster while I try to throw this up on the channel here. But like it's just example after example of these guys like walking off again. They just won. They blew out the Portland Trailblazers by 24 points. Like it's a nice feel good win. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't look that way with these guys as they're walking off. I'm not going to play the whole video here of LeBron's like because the reason I'm doing this, I've been waiting to find the video and waiting to pull up the video to be able to build off of that tweet that I read on the air. But I was able to, the Spectrum finally tweeted out a clip of LeBron's post-game interview, and it's done here at his locker room. It's literally buffering right now on the StreamYard here. So once that's up, I'll pull it up. But again, like, it's just a lot of like, even in these good moments, it just doesn't feel like it should. Here's LeBron. It's a 3-minute clip. We're not going to sit here for 3 minutes.
It's been on a roll the last 5 games. 34 points, 8 assists tonight. What are you seeing from him out there?
Just being aggressive, looking for a shot, and we continue to try to find him, especially in transition. Where the defense is flattened and he's like trailing. He's just shooting at a high clip right now, and it's good. It's definitely really good for offense.
35 fast break points. That's a season high. How much easier does that make it for you guys?
Well, the only way to get fast break points is defend, and defend without fouling, and we did that. And, it allowed us to get on the break and execute.
For those who were listening on audio,
I guess
even McMenamin just now notes that he like shook his head. He's looking down while he's talking about all these things.
Just one.
Yeah, I don't know. Shubh, like, what are you taking away from that? Again, like, he's complimenting D'Lo and he's praising the way that D'Lo is playing and the way that he shot in this one and stuff. But the whole time he's kind of like looking down, and McMenamin notes that he kind of shaking his head while he's answering that question. They just won by 25 points. What is going on? I don't know.
It just adds to what I've been saying. Like LeBron, unless he's certain like things are going the right way, like he's not going to waste time with the media. He's not going to mince words. He's been doing this way too long. He knows when a ship is not being, swung the right way. You know what I'm saying? And everything we've talked about on this show, he is well aware of that. We've covered Darvin Ham, we've covered D'Angelo Russell, we've covered Rui Hachimura, we've covered Cam Reddish's role. He knows everything that's going on, and he has a certain way that he wants things, or he would prefer things as the captain of the team and as the franchise player to be able to run, knowing how much success he's had in the league. However, because of the narrative, because of his label, because of Le GM being out there, he is forced to suppress his kind of opinions out there, and all we're left with is kind of these other head coach kind of praises on the timeline, on the Twitter timeline, or in other post-game interviews as well, talking about Ty Lue and how he runs his ship over there across the hall. That's all we're left with for people to sort of dissect and stuff. And other than that, I mean, he's just kind of, just held to that, twiddling his thumbs, because I feel like he's not allowed to speak up on his own team. And we got him towards the end of his career, but it would have been nice, at least as me as a fan, I think he's earned the right to be able to voice his opinion internally amongst the guys, have some more reign to his head coach, have some more conversation with Rob Pelinka, and be able to, voice his opinion in the right way that he knows can turn a team around and not be 22-22 when you were listed as a championship contender back in August.
The last time he did any of those things, the front office leaked like crazy that it was all his fault that they traded for Russell Westbrook, when I am here to tell you, and I have been telling you all along, that was very much a Rob Pelinka move too. So, like, I also understand why he would be kind of distant on these things and not want to. Now, it was hilarious the other day when he said, like, I don't like putting my teammates' names in the trade machine. LeBron, come on, But I do kind of think, like, when you watch this, and I do think there's a big difference between a team preparing for like a normal contender preparing for the trade deadline and what the Lakers have gone through basically for the last like 3 years, where a couple of years ago they traded for D'Lo in the summer prior, and it was a disaster basically from the get-go. And everybody knew that they had to make a trade to fix it. They chose not to because they didn't want to give up draft capital just to move Russell Westbrook. So you go through that trade deadline and that wasted season. The following year, you go through the entire offseason thinking, okay, for sure, they're going to trade Russ this year, and they can have a full training camp and they can do all these things. They don't wind up doing that. They wait until midway through the season, and they forced that group that came together last year to go on the crazy run that they went on. And fortunately, look, they did. Those guys did go on that kind of a run. And that's what it looks like when you have role players who make sense and are bought in to the team concept around LeBron. And then like their reward for it is right back here, where the only players I think who can confidently say they are going to be Lakers beyond the trade deadline are AD, LeBron, Reeves, and Vando. That's it. Everybody else has people in their camp who are reading these trade rumors to see what the returns on them might be, or if they are going to be Lakers here moving forward. And I just think that has to be exhausting. You look at every other like main championship contender, and there's a core of guys who know that they aren't getting traded. Nobody in that Denver locker room that, like, especially in their starting five, thinks that they're getting moved, right? Whether it's Yoke, whether it's Murray, KCP, Aaron Gordon, or Michael Porter Jr. Those guys know that they are there. They are Nuggets, and they are going to continue to be Nuggets.
Boston.
You can go. Yeah, you could, like, Boston, same thing. Phoenix, I think, is a little different because, like, you have 3 superstars, so you got to, like, turn whatever you can, whatever. And I think you kind of see that in their locker room too, right? Where, like, their vibes this year haven't been immaculate. And I think, like, these teams that, you know, operate like a 2K general manager or a fantasy basketball general manager, like, I think that does kind of wear on them. And I think this group here, I don't think it's all this. I do think the whole coaching situation is a big factor here, but you for damn sure can't have both of those things going on, right? It's like when you're in the ER, you can have one major organ go out, but once the second one goes out, that's when the doctor's like, yeah, you should probably start saying your goodbyes.
Yeah.
You know?
Options are kind of
yeah, like one, you could have like you could have liver failure, and you know, a lot of people die from it, but like, there's a chance. But once you have liver and heart failure, it's over. It's just done. And I do kind of wonder if we are reaching that breaking point with this team, where coming off of this win, this should be a group that should be like, you know, enthused and stoked and hell yeah, all right, let's get back to it. Let's go on this run. But everybody's just kind of like, yeah, no, we know what's coming.
Yeah.
And that's tough, you know.
And it was the same thing as last year too. And the thing is, we would be naive as fans to guarantee a 22-7 post trade deadline run for the second year in a row, whatever they went on. 16-8 after the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Again, that would be foolish to assume so. So again, as you saw 12 months ago, everyone's on pins and needles. I remember Russell Westbrook had a decent playmaking stretch off the bench last season. However, the games preceding the trade deadline played absolutely awful because he knew it was coming. Like, that's not even his fault in the first place. I think all the players that got traded sort of checked out already as well, because they knew what was coming at the end. And so, I mean, credit to D'Lo. He's staying professional like he's been, like, you know, throughout this time, and doing the best that he can and making the most of his opportunity and coming to work and playing. But it just sucks when the uncertainty is there. And the uncertainty is because so many people were not able to do their jobs, D'Lo included, right? And so now we have to go through a stretch where people can call it a marginal upgrade or not. People can call it an upgrade, this, that, and the other. But again, like, when those new players come in, nobody's going to, you know, feel bad for us. We have the same coach who's been certified that his job is here to stay, but no training camp with, if you put a gun in my head, maybe like 2 or 3 new players come into this team on February. They got to figure it out. They got to figure their role mid-season. Oh, and by the way, you got to make up from being 10th place in the Western Conference because you were 22 or probably 500 by the time you come in, to a place where you can make the playoffs confidently and win multiple rounds. So this is the predicament we're in again. And I think that's why, to your overall point, there's not a lot of celebrating going around in a 24-point win.
Yep. All right. That, I think, is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge. A successful debut for Shubh. This has been an absolute blast, man. It's tough that, you know, you have the coaches den going on at the same time that I'm doing this. But on nights that you don't, you're always welcome here. I got to start bringing you on just as a guest. That's what I'm going to start doing is not relying on just game nights to do it. Now I'll start reaching out. We'll start doing more of this stuff. If those of you enjoyed Shubh on here, make sure you guys are tapped in to the Coach's Den with our dude Rome. He's great. Everybody over there. I had a blast the other night jumping in there and talking with everybody there as well. If you enjoyed this, or you enjoy my and Raj's interactions, or you enjoy my and Aaron's interactions, you can catch more of that stuff on All Access Lakers. That's playback.tv/All Access Lakers, where you can tune into that stuff. Again, I want to be clear here, because I hold myself to a really high standard, especially on something that I'm just trying out. My reputation is more on the line with than like general people who go out and try and do this stuff. I do feel embarrassment for the fact that I got today's lineup wrong. And it is something that I am going to check in on and make sure that doesn't happen again. But what I will say though, is that as I find out more about that situation, and as I see what may have happened there, I will fill you guys in. Like, this is the nice thing about not being a traditional journalist. I am going to allow you guys behind the scenes to see how some of this goes down as well. So if that is something that you're interested in, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment, all that good stuff, and we will be back here. Let's see what's today. Oh, Aaron's going to be on tomorrow. By the time you guys are listening, so hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your pods. Follow Shub on Twitter at OVO Lake Show. I'm at Anthony Irwin LA. And until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Shub, my dude Shub, and we'll talk to everybody tomorrow.
Thank you guys.